Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Hello and welcome to the latest look back at Talking Heads. Proposals for a new single-tier Manx state pension, digital inclusion and plans for a Liverpool landing stage were some of the things discussed on the programme this week. Here's Stu Peters with more.
Talking Heads, brought to you by Magic Carpets, with the only Carndine design showroom on the island.
Should the horse trams continue to operate on Douglas Promenade for the next 2 years under the control of the Department of Infrastructure? The DOI has put forward proposals to operate the trams for the 2017 and 2018 seasons and transfer the horses and trams to the department for the time being while the long-term viability of the service is evaluated. The proposals have gained broad support from a group set up to campaign for the retention of the horse trams, although that group does have some concerns. So, should the Department of Infrastructure continue to operate the horse trams for the next 2 years? Would you like to see the DOI take them on permanently? Are you worried that shortening the route will have an impact on the viability of the horse trams? Is the increase in users sustainable? Mr. Gorn makes a lot about saving money on the horse trams. Is that why we've got horse muck all over the prom? I thought we always did have lots of horse muck over the prom. I reckon the horse trams should go, at least then the roadway prom will be started, says Kev. Well, I think the ideal is that they start at the lock prom end, which is where the trams won't be going. So I don't think that this has got anything to do with whether or not the promenade scheme will start. But listening to Phil Gorn, he was saying that once planning comes through, the idea is that the horse trams will stop at the Villa Marina from the other end, the terminus end, and so they can get on with the work on Loch Prom and make that sort of phase one of the scheme. Just get on with the job, says Cliffy. If it's ever gets started, the trams might be the only mode of transport to safely navigate the prom. If all concerned worked as hard as they talked, it'd be done by now. It's essential that the horse trams run to the sea terminal. They'll see a big drop in their revenue again if it doesn't. I want anyone to just get on with it. Single track where it is, and for heaven's sake, get the prom done. Not another 2 years to wait, says Liz. If the section of road from the War Memorial to the sea terminal is to be resurfaced without tram tracks, the likelihood of their reinstatement is minimal due to the extra cost that this would involve. Loch Promenade should be resurfaced with tram tracks as the cheapest long-term option. That would ensure that the historic tramway is saved. That from Jenny. Typical DOI doing half a job, leave the tram going all the way to the sea terminal. What's the point of it going halfway? That from Ian. Stu, as I said on Friday last week, yes, I remember you did, the horse poo used to be cleaned up by a man with a little trail thing. Now it's just left on the roadway and it's splashed up onto the cars, especially mine, says Brian. Well, that must be very irritating. You know, when you think about it, if we didn't have a horse tram now and somebody came along, a private operator came along to the government and said, right, what we want to do, we want to do this sort of heritage horse tram thing running down the middle of the road, so that people who get on and off the thing have got to walk across a busy carriageway, and it's going to be real proper horses, and we'll know that it's not CO2 that comes out the exhaust on horses, and that'll go on the road. I don't think health and safety would take it for a second. I think it'd be uproar about the thought of doing that. Now people say, yeah, well, all right, we're doing it for 120 years almost, so it's part of the heritage. Well, yes, but so we're sending children up chimneys and things, and that was soon outlawed. So it does surprise me, actually, that it's allowed still. With a little imagination and thought, the surplus horse trams would make ideal glamping accommodation, says Peter. Yes, possibly. I suppose the worry about things like this, I expect they'll probably be kept as spares or something, I don't know. If you do convert them into something else, then they're kind of lost forever from their original purpose. But yeah, it seems like a good idea on the face of it. Stu, I don't think health and safety would allow reservoirs either because of the risk of drowning, says David H. Come on, David, people have got things to do. And we need water. Do we need horse trams? Stu, when the Corp stopped running the trams, Mr. Bell said no government money would be spent on them. Is this a U-turn? They'll never finish the prom, says Bill. Bearing in mind the age group of Heritage Rail fan package holidays, walking from the steam railway at present is doable. Walking all the way to the Villa to get a tram, I suspect is not. Are the DOI going to put on a bus service to get them there and back? I would suspect not either. That from Smee, thank you very much indeed. You hit the nail on the head, says Mal, about the horse trams and health and safety. If the government and a few others are hell-bent on wasting money, then all the trams should be updated with seat belts for passengers, the side of the trams fenced in that stop people jumping on and off, and the seating reduced to allow the conductor to do his job and not step out into traffic and move up and down the tram, says Mel. Well, doesn't he sort of, isn't there a sort of a running board that you can, a bit like the guys on the dodgems jumping on and off them as the things are moving. So I don't know that he's physically got to get off the tram to be able to do that, but you probably know more than I do about this, Mal. Keep the horse trams, do a deal with Google. We could have the world's first driverless horse trams. That should please the moaners, says Howard. Why not just move the horse trams to Derby near the Transport and Motor Museums where they belong, says David H. That would be my vote, I think, if we had to keep... Well, my vote would be to run them along the pedestrian walkway, which I think was the original plan, but so many people came out against that it's not going to happen. And I've still not been convinced by any of the arguments against. I still think it's the perfect place to run it. And if not there, then along the side of the road, but in the middle of the road, I think is crazy. Perfect solution: retain one tram, mount it in the front of a large virtual reality screen depicting Douglas in the 1900s. Fibre charge for the experience, job done. While they're at it, do a similar exercise for the buses, as nobody's using them anyway, says Ray. I had a genius thought the other day. I think all the buses ought to be free. All the experts are trying to get us to use public transport more, but I think it's quite expensive to ride on buses these days. I don't know, I've not done it for ages. But if they were free to everybody to just jump on a bus anywhere they wanted and not get charged for it, I think there'd be a huge upsurge in the number of people using public transport. And the costs would probably all equal out. Horse drop their stuff on our estate. Gardeners can put it on their roses, or kids can throw it at each other, like kids do. There's no attempt by the genteel horse rider dirtying their pristine gloves. What? That's from Stephen in Glenvine. You're not quite sure what you're getting at there, Stephen. Stuart, I'm wondering as to whether they're to be funded by the saving of pensioners' TV licence fees, plus the civil servants' wages to manage them. That from Colin. I couldn't possibly comment on that. Horse trams, boring 0-0 draw at Old Trafford after 85 minutes. First shout, come on United. Second shout, come on City. Third shout, come on somebody. Familiar? That's from another Bill. It's a football reference, Bill. You know that I don't get football.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Should the island invest in land for a new landing stage in Liverpool? The Department of Infrastructure will ask Tynwald to support the purchase of land to build a new sea terminal for ferry passengers from the Isle of Man. A budget of £3.5 million has been drawn up to purchase land at Prince's Half-Tide Dock on the Mersey, close to the steam packet's current landing stage at the pier head. Concerns have been raised, though, by passenger watchdog Travel Watch Isle of Man. So what do we think about this? Are the plans positive for the island? Could the move help to secure a future sea link between Liverpool and the Isle of Man? Or would you prefer to see other options considered? Tell us your thoughts about it. Call 66 13 68, not least because I know nothing about boats, so I welcome your expertise on this one. It seems to me that, if we want an air route to the UK, we'd have to build our own airport, so I can't quite see why we've got to build our own ferry terminal. But there you go. You probably know more about it than me. Stu, whilst I can just about accept the £3.5 million cost of the lease, has any indication been given as to cost the subsequent development, says Ian? Huge amount of money. I've not got the figure in front of me, but I think it wasn't a lease, £3.5 million. That was the cost of the land, but then you've got to build it. Once you've got the plot, you've got to actually build it as well. So it was a big chunk. I think that was about a tenth of the overall cost. But I'll check the figures. Stu, I have great difficulty taking anything from the DOI seriously. The latest exercise gives Peel Holdings a shed load of money for a landfill site. They've already been well paid for it, the Peel Holdings apparently. If it's bought, it'll be on the river side of the development, meaning poor access and parking. Why are we proposing to give the steam packet another go at government money? I'll paraphrase what you actually said there, but okay, it's a point of view. Good afternoon, Stu. This is from Nigel. I think as a strategic purchase, this is fantastic. When the steam packet was taken over by Sea Containers, the resultant ludicrous move from Liverpool to the back and beyond port of Heysham was a significant factor in hastening the demise of the tourist industry. Sea Containers were only ever interested in freight traffic. Now that industry is showing growth thanks to niche tourism, and the purchase of the berth on the Mersey can only help this. Also, of course, there are the very strong cultural links between the island and Liverpool. This purchase should serve to enhance those, as well as the terminus being used for all passengers and freight traffic between the island and the mainland. The government could also secure revenue from selling berthing slots in the quieter periods. There's a thought. I wonder if you can do that. So let other people use it. What other people would want to use it, though? I don't know. Like I say, that's from Nigel. We're joined on the line now by DOI Minister Phil Gawn. Minister, good afternoon.
Fast am I, Stu?
Hiya. So you wanted to clarify a few points. I've not got anything wrong, have I, yet?
No, you were floundering a little bit at one moment, and I thought I should just help you out.
Go on.
Of course, airlines do pay when they land at airports in
Yes,
the same way that ferry operators pay when they land at ports.
Yeah.
And effectively, that's all that's happening here. So the overall costs run potentially into the region of 20 to 25 million pounds to develop a new facility. But the capital costs of paying that, we've worked out, will be no more on an annual basis than the current level of fees that the steam packet would pay to use Liverpool.
I
the
see.
reason that Peel Ports or the Peel Group hasn't been able to conclude a direct deal to build this itself was because it couldn't guarantee that it had a user, because the steam packet only had 10 years left on its user agreement, so it wasn't sure that it was still going to be able to use Liverpool for 10 years.
But couldn't the
And that's why
government actually
got
come up with
involved.
that? Couldn't the government say, whether it's the steam packet or somebody else, there will always be a need to go to Liverpool?
Well, in essence, that's why we got involved, because the steam packet couldn't give that commitment. So that's what we've been doing. That's why we
Okay.
started.
So was the original idea then that the steam packet were expected to buy this piece of land and
That
develop
was
it?
the original discussion.
Gotcha.
The discussion was originally taking place between Peel and the steam packet, and it was only when the steam packet said, well, we've only got 10 years to run, that Peel started
see.
to get a bit concerned.
Yep.
That's how government got involved. But I think the other element that I just wanted to give an alternative view to was some of the things that Travel Watch have said. Now, first of all, they said that I hadn't mentioned that this was primarily to be used for passengers and car travel and not for freight. Well, I did. I was actually saying that the day before on the Sunday opinion programmes. I'm hardly been hiding that fact. That's been very clear.
Isn't that a deal breaker for us, though,
No, it
Minister?
isn't, because at the moment, the landing stage at Liverpool doesn't accept any freight and couldn't accept any freight. So
Okay.
this is a step in the right direction, really, in that we're actually going to have a site that can take freight, and indeed an agreement yet to be concluded may well include more in relation to freight than is currently being.
Oh, right. So there is still a chance then that when we do this deal with Peel Holdings, we will be able to run freight through this new terminal.
Well, we will be able to run freight. There's no doubt about that. The question is on what condition. At
Yes.
the moment, the Peel are quite keen on limiting us to times when we can't use Heysham. We're looking for a little bit more than that, but obviously we'll see how things go. You also mentioned about different locations. We've looked at just about every location that we could think of around the Liverpool area. Birkenhead is problematic. There's various reasons given for that in the report. So we have looked at a lot of different areas, and effectively the solution we're coming forward with, we believe to be the best and most likely to meet the needs of the Manx public.
And what about the complaints from Travel Watch that actually foot passengers would be disadvantaged because this new proposed terminal is going to be a half a mile or whatever further away from where people want to be?
Yeah, again, I'm a little bit disappointed because obviously, John Pennington from Travel Watch has been part of our working group, and we have tried to keep him as involved as possible, explaining to him the various things. I heard him say promises aren't good enough in relation to whether we would have a hopper bus service. Well, we've been given that assurance from the mayor of Liverpool that if that site is developed, there will be a hopper bus service, for example. Now, if promises aren't, I can't require the mayor of Liverpool to establish a service before we've built the site.
No, but I mean, can we nail him down a little bit more than just saying this, because he might not have the virus to say it himself?
He said it very, very publicly. He is responsible for travel in Liverpool, And I'm not quite sure what more we could reasonably expect to get out of him without being seen to be a little bit overly unreasonable ourselves.
Just some sort of a letter, a memorandum of understanding sort of thing, maybe.
Added to all this, they've the Liverpool City Council have agreed to invest, I think it's somewhere between 10 to 15 million pounds improving the road infrastructure, effectively building a road right up to our terminal and linking it into the sort of the main road network in Liverpool. So they're very supportive of all this. There's an awful lot more than I think Travel Watch was suggesting. So,
and what's the overall cost? Just to save me looking it up, because it's £3.5 million for the piece of land, isn't it?
Yeah.
To buy the piece of land. But what's the overall cost of the whole development likely to be to the taxpayer?
It could be between 20 and 25 million, but at this stage we've only got indicative figures.
Sure.
Obviously, Peel started the ball rolling at 15 million, presumably with an attempt to get us to buy into the idea. But I think anyone looking at it realistically would have said that was always an optimistic figure, particularly bearing in mind the amount of land reclamation work and decontamination work that has to take place on the site.
It's a lot cheaper to build things in Liverpool than it is in the Isle of Man, though.
Well, it's horses for courses, really, isn't it? What we know is that the site is going to be developed. All around that site is going to be developed. There's some very exciting plans that are getting much closer to fruition, possibly even than our ferry terminal. So it is going to be quite a fantastic location. And obviously, we wait and see what Tynwald decides. But I think generally the feedback I'm getting from Tynwald members who are getting the detailed presentations, we've been able to answer all the questions. Anyone who asks us a question, we're very keen to provide them with answers. We're getting very positive feedback on this element of the proposal.
Good, excellent. Well, thank you very much for phoning us today, Minister.
No problem at all.
Good to talk to you. Thank you. There you go, Minister Phil Gaughan, the man who knows. And let's take a quick call from Ken. Ken, good afternoon.
Let's get it. Facts. It's a sublease, of course, but you and I will be long gone before Peel Ports loses its 250 years or something?
I think it's 268 years, so effectively it's a purchase, but with a leasehold purchase.
Mr. Gordon's on about the freight. He's quite right. They're doing their best, but it's the freight's going to be the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Because I remember the days of going to Dublin when you got further and further away from the town. They went down and down, and you finished up in a container yard, and you got coaches.
Yeah.
I think we're getting obsessed by. I'm a foot passenger. You're getting obsessed by foot passenger access, basically.
Okay.
And surely, as long as they build a bigger carousel, again, we've got the land, but who's going to pay for who's going to fill in the water? Are they going to fill in the half tide dock and the other one that runs alongside? I don't know who's going to pay for that.
Well, it'd be us if we owned it, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Well, more money. Or is it going to be whoever's going to build the terminal?
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit worse than the care home, where the care home's built, but what happens if nobody's, we're not going to run it because we've got to have beds at a certain price.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Minister just said, didn't he, on the programme that they've looked at it and it's about the same cost to buy it as it would be to actually pay people to use their facilities.
Yeah.
And at the end of 25 years or whatever, then, the capital cost will have been repaid. And I presume that we've then got an asset that's saleable. So on the face of it, it's a good idea.
We're saying how much the maximum we're going to pay. So is that good negotiation? A bit like your man Cameron who went to Brussels. Yes. But the freight. If they can do a deal, it's only to be used. He didn't say whether when the Ben goes to Birkenhead at the winter, will that be able to use that facility, or is it just when Heasham's shut for weather?
I just got the impression it was when they can't go into Heysham.
So the Ben will be still going to Birkenhead.
Well, I mean, the deal's not done, so maybe this can all be part of the negotiation. If Tynwald decides that freight is vitally important, then that can be part of the negotiation. All right, Ken, I need to move on because I've got a few people who want to speak about this, but thank you for your call. Let's go to line 4 and speak to John. Hello, John.
Well, just another Isle of Man government crazy idea.
Oh.
I'd like to ask one question. How much of Cunard, for instance, contributed to all this, what's going on in Liverpool?
No idea.
No. And it's never come out. Nobody's ever asked the question. I mean, this is crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Well, hang on, Johnny. It'll be a matter of public record how much Cunard have put towards whatever facilities they've got.
I don't think they've put anything, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It would be interesting to find out, because let's face it, this government have hit the public left, right and centre. They've hit the pensioners. They halved their Christmas bonus. They've now taken the television licence off them. They're trying very hard to get the bus passes off them. And now they're going to spend, Phil Cameen is going to spend this money. I mean, to be honest with you, Stu, I don't think that man should be allowed out alone. He really is. He shouldn't. It's like as if they've given him a checkbook with signed checks and said, spend it.
Well, just hang on, John, before you boil completely dry. Do you not think that this is just a case of the Isle of Man having an opportunity to secure a decent base in Liverpool? Because, that's another way of looking at it.
We've managed without a decent base in Liverpool. I was one of the ones, admittedly, when they originally left Liverpool, was dead against it. Yeah. But since they've gone to Heysham, to be honest with you, I'm very much in favour of Heysham.
Right. Okay.
And I don't see why I mean, the only advantage of Liverpool and Birkenhead was when they used to do the shopping trips.
Yes.
Out in the morning, back at night. Now you can't do that because they don't stay there long enough to do any shopping. So I cannot see the advantage of going to Liverpool at all, particularly with Heysham now has this new dual carriageway. I don't know whether it's finished yet. We'll know next week because we're away, whether it's finished linked to the M6 or not.
Right, OK, fair dues.
Talking Heads, brought to you by Magic Carpets, with the only Carndine design showroom on the island.
You're listening to the latest Talking Heads podcast featuring highlights from the programme over the past week.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Should aspects of the criminal justice system in the island be overhauled? A consultation into aspects of criminal justice and possible changes to the system has been launched. We, the public, are being asked for our views on proposals such as the use of more fixed penalties and cautions, treating 17-year-olds as juveniles rather than adults, and a fresh look at sentencing. One of the aspects being looked at is making it clearer what length of a sentence will be served following a conviction. Are changes to the criminal justice system and sentencing needed in the island, do you think? Should the actual term of incarceration to be served following a conviction be made clearer? Are fixed penalties for some offences more appropriate than custodial sentences? And what about community service? Could it be used more effectively? Tell us what you think. It used to be a third of your sentence off for good behaviour, says one ex-bad boy. Well, even that's better. I mean, half seems crazy to me. John called. I'm an ex-prisoner from years ago. Back then you got a third of your sentence for good behaviour. If you misbehaved, you served the whole sentence. And can I say, some of the boys in there could make you lose your remission if they wound you up. Yeah, I don't know when they changed it from a third, but I'm going back many years now. Yeah, I think somebody else has been on pretty much in the same vein. Oh no, Stuart, I'm a firm supporter of community service as a cheaper, more constructive form of sentencing. Prison is destructive and regressive, should only be used in the most serious of cases where the offender presents a threat or danger to the public. That according to George. Stu, I'm a firm believer in if you commit the crime, you serve the time. All this rubbish about serving half the sentence. Was the victim half murdered, half raped or half robbed? I'd go one step further. If they wanted a bed to sleep on or food to eat, then they should hope that they have very close family to pay for it. But there again, I'm the minority and the do-good era will prevail, says Mal. Bit of a hardline attitude, Mal, but I don't disagree with much of what you say. Bob called. If a person's sentenced to X number of years, then they should serve X number of years. They should only get out in X number of years if they behave themselves. If not, they should be in for longer. And now there's a different way of looking at it, I suppose. They've got it the wrong way around, says Bob. Yes, maybe that's the answer. So if you get 10 years, you serve at least 10 years. And if you don't behave well, you don't get out after 10 years, you're kept in. That's maybe a more sensible way of looking at it. If our children can vote, get married and drive a car at 16, surely they should be treated like an adult from then with appropriate sentencing if they break the law. I think so, personally. Yes, I agree with that. I'm not sure that I agree with the idea of them having the vote at 16, but if that's the way that society is going, where we're giving young people responsibilities, then this has got to be one of them. Surely, criminal justice, community service sorted me out 25 years ago. 240 hours of degrading work every weekend. Well, that's kind of you to get in touch. Thank you very much indeed. Because we often debate this as a sort of a concept. Does it work or not? So, presuming that you're serious about it, so community service sorted you out 25 years ago. That's great to know. So, are you saying that maybe if you'd have gone to prison instead, it might have led to a life of crime? I mean, they do talk about it as a university of crime if you're sent to jail. So, I just hope that this is right, that degrading work every weekend sorted you out. Yeah, good. Stu, if a person receives a 10-year sentence and it means 10 years and they misbehave while at prison, what can you do to encourage good behaviour? Send them to prison? Asks Pete. Well, I'm not an expert. I mean, luckily, thankfully, I've never been to prison. It looks like all the films I've seen, it looks like a terribly disagreeable place to be with disagreeable people, and I'd hate to meet Mr. Big in the showers. But I think that what happens is that they're given privileges for good behaviour, and I think that they're sort of rolled back. So if you misbehave, then I think your privileges are reduced, is my understanding of the situation. But you're right, if you're in jail, what are they going to do? Add to the sentence, I suppose. Could community service cover cutting overgrown hedges back, asks Jay. I expect so, yeah. You would have thought that there are all sorts of jobs like that. Let's go to the lines because we've got Colin on to talk about early release. Hello, Colin.
I don't normally come on, but I just thought I'd just come on just to mention, if someone was to get a 10-year sentence,
yeah,
they obviously have to go in front of the parole board, and they have to be seen to have addressed the offending behaviour as much as they can.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're sent down for 10 years for murdering somebody, and after 5 years they decide that you've been in jail and you've not murdered somebody, that's not really much of a push, is it?
Well, no, it's not. But of course, when they get out at the 5 years, if they get out at the 5 year, if they go out and pinch a bottle of milk off someone's doorstep, for example,
yeah,
they'll go to court and they'll get, I don't know, a month for stealing a pint of milk. But the court can also impose the remainder of what's left of their sentence as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it is hanging over them.
It's the sort of Damocles sort of thing.
Yeah. But that said, I part of me does feel that for the public's sake, that I do feel that perhaps they should get, if they're going to get 5 years, they should do 5 years. But that said, you need something hanging over them.
Yes.
Not all prisoners, obviously. I mean, some prisoners will do exactly what's required of them to get out, obviously.
Yeah.
At the earliest opportunity. And obviously every one of those isn't going to stop offending when they get out. We'd like to think they will, but it just doesn't happen all the time.
Fair dues. All right, some good points there. Thank you for calling, Colin. Nice to talk to you. Don't be shy. Call us again any time. This is from Norman. Stu, I worked in Victoria Road Prison starting in 67 until 86, so almost 20 years then. Remission was granted after 2/3 if you behave yourself. There was a code of discipline, and if you offended, you could have X number of days remission forfeited. This was administered by the prison governor or the Board of Visiting Magistrates. This doesn't happen now. The standard of discipline in the world in general is poor now. Prison doesn't deter criminals, according to Norman. Well, you've been working on the inside, so if anybody knows about it, you would. Not a deterrent. Sentence, no matter how many years, should be just that, the number of years given. No time off for good behaviour, but time on for bad behaviour, says Lizzie. Yeah, somebody else suggested that. I think that's probably a good idea. David says, what's not generally understood about the current release arrangements is that although prisoners are released after serving half of the sentence, they're on licence for the rest of the period, and for the third quarter are under the supervision of the probation service and can be recalled to prison at any time during the third and fourth quarters if they breach any of the terms of their licence. Okay, well, yeah, I suppose that there is some sense in that, and if it keeps these people on a fairly short leash and prevents reoffending, then I suppose that's a good thing. I suppose what most of us worry about is that people are let out early and then go back on a crime spree again. So, these people need putting away for forever, really, because if they are released at half-time, then it's not going to stop their antisocial or yobbish or criminal behaviour. Let's go to the lines and Richard. Hello, Richard.
I can't help thinking, though, Mayor Cope, I've been dipping in and out of the COP programme, trying to keep in touch with other things as well.
All right.
But I strongly suspect, and this has not been your previous callers, is that one hears, to cut a long story short, to cut to the chase, as it were, that you hear a lot of reports of why the sentences for various offences getting longer and longer. I suspect that's most likely because the powers that be, like the judges and the people who issue the sentences, realising there's a strong possibility of this system of 50% off for good behaviour, and they say, right, well, we'll just put the sentences up by 50% or 100% to counterbalance that possibility.
Yeah.
And also, I just thought, being very cynical, that they're doing their best with the sort of amount of police space that they've got. And what if they went full mast for all the sentences, they'd have to have a lot more correctional facilities, which we're reluctant to do
in
the first place. So they're really doing...
Well, if we're swapping...
the best they can with what they've got, really.
If we're swapping conspiracy theories, then how about the fact that it's politically it looks better if somebody's given a 10-year sentence on the expectation they're going to come out after 5 than giving them 5 years in the first place, where people will then say that we're too tough on sentencing. So do you think that might be part of the problem here?
Well, you never know. That could also be something to add to the equation, I would suspect.
Good stuff. All right. Nice to hear from you, Richard. Thank you very much for calling today.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Is a move towards its own state pension a good move for the Isle of Man? Proposals have been brought forward to introduce a single-tier Manx state pension set at a rate of £170 a week. The change would see the phasing out of the Manx pension supplement over a 20-year period. Treasury says the changes need to be made to increase the longevity of the National Insurance Fund and to enable government to be able to pay state pensions in the years to come. The proposals aim to protect the rights already built up of those close to state pension age. The island broke its direct link with the UK state pension earlier this year. Is a single-tier state pension the fairest option for all in future years? Do you support the moves to simplify the current arrangements? Do you support the island's move away from the UK scheme? And let's have a word with Eddie. Hello, Eddie.
Well, to be quite truthful with you, here we've got a non-elected MLC doing it again. This is so wrong. £170 a week is, honestly, they're living in cloud cuckoo land. Our rent on a 3-bedroom house in Williston, again, we're fortunate that it's corporation, but it's £122.54 a week. Then you've got your electricity, you've got your gas, you've got your oil for your central heating.
Oh, yeah.
How are we supposed to live on £170 a week?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm one of the ones who I believe they can't touch our pension.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about this, Eddie, in that this isn't something that's going to come in overnight. This is a proposal. They're saying that they need to do something over the long term because otherwise they're going to run out of money. So, I mean, this is, looking forward to 2050, effectively. Anybody who's currently in receipt of a pension won't be any worse off, according to the government, I don't think.
Well, we believe that, don't we? But the thing is, Stu, what I can't understand is, now he said in his statement that we have adequate funds until 2056.
Well, that's when it's run out completely, I think.
Well, that's when it runs out. Now, theirs is run out already, Stu.
Oh, yeah.
It's costing £46 million a year for theirs, right? Now, my argument is, why are they doing ours and they haven't done their own yet?
Because they can.
Well, you've hit it in a nutshell. And I mean, they're all going to be coming round here wanting to be elected soon in September. And the first question I'm going to ask them is, are they going to take 5% cut each year?
Yeah.
And their pensions?
Good. Give them a hard time on the doorstep,
I
Eddie.
Definitely will, mate.
Good man. All right. Thank you for your call.
And one other thing, Stu, people do forget, that this Manx government, and quite a few of them are still in government, took £46 million out of our pension fund to build a new hospital.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
never been paid back, Stu.
But isn't that just an accounting sort of a nicety?
No, they took £46 million. They said it was oversubscribed and they could afford to take that money out.
Right.
Now, my argument is, if they can pay themselves £46 million a year for their pensions, why can't they pay that £46 million back into our pension fund? And perhaps it would bring it out to 2060 then.
Yeah. All right. Fair dues. Thank you very much for your call, Eddie. Let's go to the lines and see what Ros makes of this. Hello, Ros.
I don't agree with it at all, but I'm wondering just how much they will save.
How much they'll save?
How much they'll save on it. Because surely if people who are at the moment are just on the borderline, if their pensions are cut, they're going to be claiming supplementary benefits.
Well, they won't. I mean, they're saying that this is going to be very transitional and that nobody's going to lose out in the short term as far as this is concerned. It's more of a long-term plan. They're addressing a problem before it becomes a huge problem sort of thing.
Yeah, but even in the long term, people who are on £170 a week in the long term will still probably be having to claim, in 10 years' time, will have to claim supplementary benefits.
Yeah, well...
So are they actually saving money, or is, as you've just said about the hospital, is this just a little bit of accountancy that it looks better to say they're saving on the pensions, and then they'll say, yes, but we're having to pay out more through social services?
It wouldn't be the first time that politicians had pulled that trick, would it? Yeah, we're saving a vast amount of money. A different department's paying for it, really. Yeah, okay. All right.
I think it's time the government had one pot and stopped having it. This department has so much. This department has another. And
but I mean,
included.
But realistically, the government does have one pot, doesn't it? It's called the Treasury. But then the Treasury has got to give each department an amount to do what it needs to do over the year. So.
Well, that's what they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, but
if you're a local authority, if you're a local authority, you get your rates in. The local authorities get their rates in, and then they have to divide it up. But they don't say at the beginning of the year, "Oh, okay, we're going to allow so much for doing the roads, so much for doing this, so much for doing that."
I would have thought you'd have to do that to plan your expenditure.
They have an estimate at the beginning of the year as to what they expect to pay.
Yeah.
But they don't say, right, that amount is definitely fixed for that subject, that section, and that amount is definitely fixed.
Well, I think you're touching on something there that does seem mad to me, which is these things where a road is resurfaced, not because it needs it, but because they need to spend the money in that financial year. That kind of thing is complete and utter madness, I agree.
Yeah.
But I think departments need to know going into the year what they've got to spend over the course of that year. All right, Ros, lovely to hear from you. Thank you very much for calling. Ros often sends us texts and emails and things, so it's nice to hear a voice. Super. Some comments. State pensions should be means tested, particularly those with a fat subsidised public sector pension shouldn't get any state pension. I've heard some rubbish from the unelected Henderson before, but this takes the biscuit. The biggest elephant in the room are there and their mates in the civil service pension schemes, says Steve. I think a lot of people would agree with you, Steve. My mum and dad pay into a bank account all their lives. Our will is left to pay into your kids' account, so why can't the pension be the same as a bank account at the end of the day? It's an account that you've paid into. What he's paid in is long gone. That man has his head in the clouds. It's us paying his pension, says Dave. Stop making apologies for this useless government. You've become a mouthpiece for Bell, says Neil. You're talking rot, Neil. I'm not a mouthpiece for Bell. Are you still sticking with the Isle of Man is not bankrupt? Yes, I am. I think that the Isle of Man has got some significant challenges financially, but there's a big difference between realising that you've got challenges ahead and doing something about it now and being bankrupt. Big difference. It's the green-eyed monsters to you. Somebody pays into a company pension on top of paying into the state pension. What's wrong with that? Nothing. Get over it, says Dave. Well, that's kind of my view on it. Although it is irritating if you've got two people living next door to each other. One is just on the state pension, the other one's got an occupational pension scheme or a public sector pension as well, and they seem to be rolling in dosh. But the person in the first house has probably not paid anything into a scheme for their entire working lives, and they've had the benefit over their entire working lives. Stuart, I would appreciate the government telling us how much it saves from people who pay national insurance but don't live long enough to draw a pension. It'll all be an actuarial thing, I'm fairly convinced of that. I don't think it's going to be a huge amount, to be honest. Hey, Neil, you're so great. When are you announcing that you're standing for election? Then you can do the job right, mate. From Pauline Ramsey. Yes, okay, thank you very much indeed.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Should moves to bring more people in the island into the digital age be welcomed? Some don't want to go, I don't think. Getting more people, businesses and organisations online is the aim of the Digital Inclusion Strategy 2016 to 2021. The strategy goes before Tynwald next week, with members being asked to approve it. The document aims to involve the private and voluntary sectors in helping people, in particular the isolated and the vulnerable, to get online. Should steps be taken to get more people in the island online? Could it ultimately benefit both individuals and broader society? Or is it inevitable that some people will never want to have online access or have to learn how to use the new technologies? Hello, Gillian.
I don't agree what the government is going to say or arrange, because my husband and I'm in my middle 70s. He's slightly younger than that, but the only time we had a computer, which we've never used ourselves, was when the son was living with us, and he has left the house now, and I thought myself, right, we will get the broadband. I'll get the broadband finished, because it is a lot of money.
Right.
It costs a lot of money, and I thought, right, I will decide to, because when you're only on a certain amount of pension, every penny counts. And I think a lot of people are going to find this very, very difficult, because broadband is not cheap.
No, it's not cheap, especially not in the Isle of Man. If you look at the deals that people are getting across, then it's an awful lot cheaper in the adjacent isle.
They've got so many different different people.
Packages,
Here we've got two people. We've got two companies.
What about things like mobile phone? I mean, would you not consider using a mobile phone in free Wi-Fi hotspots? I mean, if you go into a coffee shop, most coffee shops these days, for example, give free Wi-Fi, and if you've got a smartphone, you can access the internet that way. Would you not be interested in doing that?
No, I wouldn't. My little phone here I've got, somebody has, I do pay as you go, and it's a lovely little beginning with an N, and he said he'll last forever, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, an old Nokia, they will last forever, I would have thought.
Nokia. I didn't know if I was allowed to use that.
Yeah, of course you are,
radio, But she is over 10 years old, and touch wood, she is still going strong. I'm not used to texting. I can't text. I don't know how to do it, but I.
Do you think? I mean, would it be fair? Would it be fair, Julian, to say that you may be a little bit of a Luddite, technically, that you know about all these different technologies, but you don't really want to waste time learning how to use them?
I think what it is, Stu, I'm set in my ways, and I prefer the old way, but a lot of this modern technology, no, I suppose I'll never use it until my dying
right,
days, sort of thing. But,
all right, well, it's an interesting concept,
Yes, bye.
All right, thank you very much, Gillian. And let's see what Norman makes of this. Hello, Norman.
I thought I'd give you a call today rather than use my tablet, because sometimes my tablet fails. It's not me, it's the machine.
Of course it is, yeah.
I'm only new to this so-called modern technology.
Yeah.
My son said to me, "You want to get yourself into the 21st century, Dad?" I said, "I'm still in the 19th." And also, I have a telephone, a mobile telephone, but it is just that it's a telephone. My daughter said to me one day, "I tried to contact you, but it was switched off."
Yes.
I said, "It's an emergency telephone. When I've got an emergency, I'll switch it on and I'll call you."
Good for you. Well, no, you're making the technology do what you want it to do. Yeah, that's good.
But also, you see, if you see what's on television, and it has to be sometimes believed, the amount of intrusions into your privacy as well, it can be hacked. When you have a 16-year-old lad in England accused of hacking into the United States defense computer, that's tremendous.
It's scary.
If he can do it, what can our potential
the bad guys do? Yeah, it is worrying.
So, it's certain things you still want to keep quiet, keep confidential between yourselves.
Yes.
And if you want to talk to your friend confidentially, you don't want people interfering with your.
But even on the telephone, there might be a listening centre listening to your calls. You don't know.
Oh yes, well in America, I believe every telephone call in America is recorded. Is recorded, and certain words, if they're picked up by the FBI, they have all these electronic things, and they can say, "Oh, so and so, he's a suspected terrorist."
If they do it over there, the chances are they'll do it over here with GCHQ. I would have thought.
You don't know, but
no.
I'm trying to get into the 20th century, 21st century, But to me, it's all right, provided it works. But I press the button and then it goes blank. I think, God, where have I gone wrong here? And how do I start it up again? I mean, at least with a book, you get. When I used to do a lot of research.
Yes.
And when I do book research, if you make a mistake, you just prick the pages back.
Of course.
You can go back to square one and work your way through again.
Yeah, you don't have to reboot it and find the fault. Yeah.
So as a researcher for nearly 20 years, like, I know what it's like.
Right.
If you're looking for something, computers I don't always trust.
All right, fair dues, Norman. Thank you very much for your call, and thanks for calling. Let's see if we've got Neil's voice there. Hello, Neil.
I agree with all your previous correspondence.
Right.
And it's not an ageist thing either. I think even a lot of younger people and sort of middle-aged people, after spending a majority of their day putting analysis on spreadsheets and updating files, etc., which I have to do, the last thing I want to do in the evening is come home, have to go onto a computer, search through all the relevant data to find things like government planning applications and all the other bumps that goes along. I think we should have access to that information at hand without having to search for it. And there is a cost involved. I quite agree with your lady caller from the Doon. I forget her name off the top of my head.
Gillian, yeah.
Gillian, yes, she was bang on there.
Wow. Okay, so you think it's all right, but a lot of people are sort of wiped out by using computers all day at work and don't necessarily want to do it at home as well.
Yes, indeed, and also when you look at the obesity factor, which our government and the UK governments are all kicking off about, I would have thought the last thing they want to do is encourage people to have to sit at home in the evening with their feet up, surfing the internet, looking for information, instead of getting out on their bike or in the garden or going for a swim, the same as I do.
That's what's stopping me going out on my bike, clearly. Yeah. It's the computer's fault that I'm not out on a bike or going for a swim, probably. I'll have a quick chat with Dennis, who I don't think's phoned before. Hello, Dennis.
Hello. No, we've not spoke before. No, because it's always so expensive to speak to you.
Well, we always call you back, so it's only a quick call.
Yes, this is only a quick call. I don't agree with this broadband or anything I heard that, because what will happen later on in a couple of months' time, when we've got to pay for our television licenses?
Oh, yeah.
So what happens then?
Yes.
Your laptops and everything else are all going obsolete then?
Well, I don't know that it'll be obsolete, but yeah.
No, but you're going to have to pay another £150 or £200 for the license.
Yeah.
Over the years, we paid for licenses over since 1930.
So it's the cost that puts you off, then, Dennis, rather than anything else, is it?
It's the cost of anything else, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we just can't do it because the pension money doesn't justify it. Can't do it.
One thing or the other.
I have to do away with 2 dinners a week as it is.
Right. All right. Fair dues. It's lovely to hear from you. Thank you very much for calling us today, and don't be shy. Call us again sometime.
Talking Heads, brought to you by Magic Carpets, with the only Carndine design showroom on the island.
That's it for the latest look back at Talking Heads. If you'd like to get involved in the discussion yourself, you can call, text or email between midday and 2 p.m. on weekdays, or you can share your thoughts at any time on the Facebook page. That's Talking Heads with Stu Peters. You can listen back to each day's programme in full using the on-demand section of manxradio.com, and the website's also where you'll find an update of what's being discussed on the programme each day. You can also keep up to date with that information by liking the Facebook page or following Stu Manx on Twitter. And if there's anything you think we should be discussing on the programme, let us know by emailing talk@manxradio.com. But that's it for now, so until next time, goodbye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com.
Love being Shaw.
Terms and conditions apply.